Hello, today we are going to review or learn again the substitution method for solving a system of equations. We've already talked about substitution in Unit 2 when we took our two equations and we set them equal to each other. However, this substitution could be a little different. To solve a system using substitution, you need to solve one of the equations for one of its variables. It does not always have to be y equals. So you could have y equals or x equals, okay? That is your first step. The key to doing that is to look for a letter that's by itself. For example, if I gave you x plus 3y equals 8 and 2x plus 4y equals negative 12, the easiest letter to get by itself is the x. Or if I gave you a problem that said negative 3x plus 4y equals negative 20 and 2x minus y equals 8, on that problem, the easiest letter to get by itself is the y. So you're always going to look for the letter that doesn't have a coefficient. And you're going to solve that equation for that letter. Once you do that, you're going to substitute that answer into the other equation and solve. Get that answer and plug it back in and solve. Remember, our three possibilities for our solutions are a point, no solution, or infinite solutions. So let's look at what each of these types of examples will look like. My first problem says x plus 8y equals negative 12 and 4x plus 7y equals 2. The first step said to look for one of the variables that's by itself and get it by itself. So when I look at example 1, the easiest letter to get by itself is going to be that x. So doing step 1, not in a highlighter though. Doing step 1 is to take that first equation, x plus 8y equals negative 12, and let's solve it for x. To get x by itself, we have to minus 8y and minus 8y on each side. That would leave me with x equals negative 8y minus 12. Remember, we just take that and turn it on its side. We cannot combine those like terms. So, oops, sorry, Mr. Newell.
Just a reminder to all of our students.
Okay, so continuing with this problem, the first step was to solve one equation for one of its variables. We took that first equation, we solved it for x because that was the easiest letter to get by itself. The second step says substitute that answer from step 1 into the other equation and solve. So when you look at this equals x, and in the other equation, I have an x. So for step 2, it's to take that equation 4x plus 7y equals 2, and where x is, put in our answer from step 1. So 4 times negative 8y minus 12 plus 7y equals 2. So you're making that substitution for step 2. We took our answer from step 1, went to the other equation that we have, and we plugged it in. Whoops. So now, the rest of step 2 is just to solve this. If you look at this equation now, we only have the letter y. So if we distribute here, 4 times negative 8y is negative 32y. 4 times negative 12 is negative 48. Plus 7y equals 2. Combining our like terms, negative 32y plus 7y is negative 25y minus 48 equals 2. To solve this one, we add 48, add 48. Negative 25y equals 50. When I divide by negative 25, we get y equals negative 2. But remember, our answer can only be a point, x, y. So you've only given me the fact that y is negative 2. To get x then, step 3 is to take your answer and go plug it back into one of the equations. Now, I always like to go back to the answer to step 1, and if I take that and plug it in there, I won't have to do any work but solving that expression to get my answer. So if I go back to step 1 and our answer was negative 8y minus 12 equals x, and I put in negative 8 times y, we found y to be negative 2 minus 12, then I would get x equals 16 minus 12, which is 4. So my answer to this problem is 4, negative 2. We have one solution. If you were to graph those, that would be where the two lines intersect. Sometimes it's not nice and pretty to graph though, so that's why we use the substitution method. Okay? So, looking at the second example, if we go to step 1, solve the system using substitution. The first step is to solve one equation for one of the variables. When I look at the two equations, the only letter that doesn't have a coefficient is that y right there. So that would have to be my first step. So step 1 is to take that equation, negative 3x plus y equals negative 5, and solving it for y. So to get y by itself, I would add 3x, add 3x. We get y equals 3x minus 5. That is step 1. Step 2 is to take that answer from step 1, go to the other equation, and substitute it in. Since this is a y equals equation, we have to put it where this y is. So taking that equation, 9x minus 3y equals 15, and replacing the y with 3x minus 5, right? This was our answer to step 1, 3x minus 5. I do not like the way my board is working today, you guys. 3x minus 5. There we go. That looks way better. Except that's in purple, not in pink. There we go. So we had y equals 3x minus 5. We substituted that into the first equation, where y is. Now all we have to do for the rest of step 2 is solve this. To solve it, we would need to distribute a negative 3. So negative 3 times 3x is negative 9x. Negative 3 times negative 5 is positive 15. Equals 15. Combining our like terms, well, 9x, take away 9x, is 0x's. Those would cancel out, and we would be left with 15 equals 15. Now, step 3 would be to take the answer and plug it in, except we don't have any letters left here. So, looking at this, you are done. Step 3 is not needed. Step 4, then, is to state the solution. 15 equals 15 is a true statement. 15 will always equal 15. So the answer to this problem is infinite solutions. All of your letters canceled out, and you came up with a true statement. 15 does equal 15. So now let's look at the last example and see how we would do substitution on this one. The last example says 4x plus y equals 10 and y minus 5 equals negative 4x. Picking one equation to solve for one of the variables, you can either go with this y or you can go with this y. Either one would work. Either one has no coefficient. For today, I'm going to go with the second one just because it's on the bottom. So solving this one for step 1, if it's y minus 5 equals negative 4x, and I just plus 5 and plus 5, I get y equals negative 4x plus 5. That would take care of my step 1. Step 2 would be to take this answer, substitute it into the other equation, and solve. So the first equation said 4x plus y equals 10. So I would put 4x plus y. The answer to the step 1 was negative 4x plus 5. Notice on this one, I don't have a coefficient in front of the y. And that equals 10. I don't have any distributing here unless you wanted to put a 1 there. But that would still leave me with 4x. 1 times negative 4 is negative 4x. 1 times 5 is 5. Solving this one, 4x minus 4x, again, cancels each other out. And I'm left with 5 equals 10. So step 3, since I have no letters left, is again not needed. And step 4, state the solution. If 5 equals 10, well, 5 never equals 10. This is a false statement. So my answer to this problem is no solution. So, recapping, to solve a problem using substitution, you always try to get one of the letters by itself, whether that is x or y, like we did on these two. And to do that, you look for the letter that's already by itself. It doesn't have a coefficient in front of it. Once you get that answer, the second step is to take your answer and substitute it into the other equation, the one that you did not use. Solve that equation for whether it's x or y. On the first one, we solved for y. On the second one, we started solving for x. And on the third one, we started solving for x. So you can have three different types of answers. Once you solve step 2, you either get a number and a letter, like y equals negative 2. You get a true statement, or you get a false statement. If you get an answer, like on example 1, you take that answer, plug it back in, and get the other half of your answer. If you get a true statement, to where all of your letters canceled out, and you get like negative 3 equals negative 3, that is an infinite solution situation. If you get an answer that says like 2 equals negative 7, that is not a true statement, so then you would write no solution. Your secret word of the day today is bananas. I will see you in class next time, you guys.